From the love of liberty in the fires of hope and prayer, with boundless faith in our destiny, we solemnly declare, side by side we stand, highlands of the blue Caribbean.
Good evening, my dear friends. Just some safety announcements. The washrooms are to the ground floor, to my left, your right. In case of an emergency, there are 3 exits. You take the exit and we get to the muster point at the back of the car park in case of an emergency. Can we all stand for the national anthem and remain standing for prayer? All right. 2 minutes again. Let's take a seat. Yeah. Or we could do some stretches and things. Yeah. A dry run in case of emergency. All those persons coming through the back, can you come to the front, please? Those chairs at the back, fire services said those chairs have to be removed for safety reasons. So can all those sitting in the back come to the front, please? Councillor Javed. Councillor Javed to the front. Jai. Javed. Good evening, my dear friends. Can we all stand for the national anthem and remain standing for prayer?
From the love of liberty, in the fires of hope and prayer, with boundless forged from the love of liberty, in the fires of hope and prayer, with boundless faith in our destiny, we solemnly declare, side by side we stand, islands of the blue Caribbean Sea. This our native land, we pledge our lives to thee. Here every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our nation. Here every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our nation.
Almighty God, most beneficial and merciful, Creator of the universe and embodiment of divine wisdom and light, we come before you with thanksgiving and praise. May your will be done in our nation as it is in the heavens. Please bless our political leader, party officials, activists, and all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Give us the grace to always see good, be good, and do good, and the courage to serve the people. Protect us as we stand against injustice and iniquity, and inspire our endeavors to find the right solutions to the problems that are affecting our fellow citizens. Grant that we may always work together with humility and respect for the greater happiness of all and the honor and glory of our country.
Cottage meeting live from the Penal Presbyterian School in the constituency of Oropouche West. I now invite to the podium my co-host, my colleague, very hard-working councillor, Ramona Victor from the Siparia Borough Corporation.
Good afternoon, UNC family. Our first speaker this afternoon have been calling on this present government to give our heart patients a fighting chance. He was instrumental in the construction of the San Fernando Teaching Hospital as well as the Couva Children's Hospital. A man who have done more in 5 years in SWRHA than our current Minister of Health has done in 8 years. Well-known and distinguished Member of Parliament for Faisabad, MP Dr. Lakram Bodo!
Thank you very much, Councillor Ramona Victor, very hard-working councillor of the Siparia Borough Corporation. Good night, UNC. Good night, UNC family, ladies and gentlemen. The political leader of the United National Congress, the Member of Parliament for Siparia, and the leader of the opposition in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa, the best Prime Minister we've seen, and the Prime Minister soon to be again. I want to say a very special thank you to our host, your hardworking Member of Parliament for Oropouche West, in whose constituency we are, and of course to recognize my parliamentary colleague from Couva South, hardworking Rudranath Indar Singh, and of course the Mayor of the Siparia Borough Corporation, His Worship Dunad Mirhu, and the other councillors of the Siparia Borough Corporation, and indeed councillors of all the other corporations here joining us here tonight. A special welcome again to those who are joining us on the social media and the various platforms. So a very good night, UNC family. So we are here once again tonight at another cottage meeting to do our job as the opposition, as the loyal opposition of Trinidad and Tobago, to call out, to bring to account the government, the actions of the government, or in many instances, the inactions of this government. And tonight, I would just want to speak a little bit about the healthcare sector. You know, my brothers and sisters, just when you think things are getting better, you know, you see something that really touches your heart. And I mean that literally, because, you know, last week, Friday, I opened the papers. It was painful for me to read the headlines, no pun intended. And the headline was "Painful Wait." And this is a headline on the Express, and the subheading is that nursing manager laments a two-year trauma for an ECG test. We'll come back and talk about what that meant. It wasn't the ECG you know about in public health care. And this really speaks to the heart of the issues that we are facing in the health sector in terms of the problems. And you know, when you open the page to go into the story, the next headline is "Horrors in Healthcare." Now, that's a headline that has been bandied about, my brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, for the last 8 years under this government. All that citizens have experienced is horrors in healthcare. So I think the Express newspaper got it right with this subheading. Now, how did this heading come about? This came about because a parliamentary committee, the Joint Select Committee on Public Administration and Social Social Affairs decided that one of the biggest social issues we have facing the population is the issue of poor or lacking health care. So they took it upon themselves, and I want to commend that committee and the members of the committee. One of our own MPs, MP Vandana Mohit, is a member of that committee, and they took the initiative of having what was termed a town hall meeting, where they invited members of the public, various stakeholders and so on, to come to the building. There's a building called the Cabildo building next to the parliament, to air their views and so on. And of course, this is what came out of this. Now, the irony of this is that this is a senior nurse manager who works in the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex in the NCRHA, and this person has been waiting for 2 years for an echocardiogram. Why is that bad? Well, my brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, the issue of heart disease in Trinidad and Tobago is a big issue. Recently, following the COVID-19 pandemic, we all grew accustomed to the term comorbidity, and of course, many of you would have lost your loved ones, some of your loved ones, your friends, your family, and so on, because of the COVID-19 and because of the comorbidity with heart disease, diabetes, hypertension, and so on. So when we talk about cardiovascular disease, we talk about those with heart conditions, those with high blood pressure. What is the kind of care our citizens get when they access or try to access the health facilities in Trinidad and Tobago under this PNM administration? Well, let's take an example. Well, let's look at the problem. The problem is that of the 12,000 approximately people who die every year in Trinidad, about 3,500 die because of cardiac disease. So it's a big problem. It's a big problem right next to diabetes and other issues, but we are talking about a big problem, and we are talking about deaths. But we also have to understand that in addition to what we doctors call mortality, there's something called morbidity. And the morbidity means that when you suffer a heart attack and you're waiting on an angiogram or you're waiting on some intervention in the health sector, you're not 100%. The machine is not working 100%. The car is working on half tank of fuel. So in addition to you waiting for these, you already cannot perform in terms of supporting your family, you cannot perform in your job. So that is a factor that we have to take into account when we look at waiting times. Now, I did a press release on Friday following this, saying that we should look into the waiting times. And of course, the Honorable Minister, in his usual fashion and form, came out to say that they have no issue with waiting times, they are dealing with waiting times and so on. But you and I know differently, my brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. All of you, many of you here would know of someone who has been waiting for some procedure in the hospital. Before I leave the issue of heart care and cardiac care and all of that, because it's very important, it's something that needs to be fixed. And this is something that we had started to fix in 2014 thereabouts, when the partnership government was in office under the Prime Minister of Kamala Prasad Bisesa. So right after she built the San Fernando Teaching Hospital, brand new 214-bed hospital, and I see our hard-working then chairman of UDICOT here with us, Jerlene John, and of course the minister who was responsible for UDICOT at that time, Minister and MP Rudal Munilal. So, and I don't want to digress too much, but this government is taking, they boast about building hospitals, they boast about Point Fortune and Narima and so on. But I want to put it on the record that, and I'm sure that Senator Jerlene John can verify this, that hospital was completed and given back to the population in about 2 years, if I'm not mistaken, 2 to 2.5 years, adding 214 beds. But I'm making that point for a reason, and the reason is this. After we took those patients off the corridors of the hospital into the brand new hospital, the next step was to provide a cardiac catheterization laboratory. What is this facility? It's really not a very expensive facility, but it is a facility that is required when you get your chest pain and you go to a casualty, okay, and a heart attack is suspected. After they do the simple blood test and they do an ECG, the next thing is to try to determine whether there's blockage in your arteries. And that is done by a fairly simple test. In modern times, we'd say fairly simple. It's called an angiogram. What is it? They inject a bit of dye into your vein, they take a special x-ray, and they can tell right away whether there's blockage and whether you need intervention. That's an important test. The results of that test could determine whether you live or die. It's as simple as that. Because if you have severe blockage and it's not treated properly, either by putting in something called a stent or doing something called bypass surgery, then it's just a matter of time. You will die. It's as simple as that. So what is this government doing about this? Now there's one of those labs, one cardiac catheterization lab in the public sector in the Eric Williams Medical Sciences Complex. That is not functioning optimally, that facility, and the reason for that is that these labs require something called consumables. Every time you do a test, you have to replenish the little tubes, whatever, and so on that are required. I don't want to go into the technical details. They're called catheters and so on. But the bottom line is that you have that, so you don't have enough capacity in the public sector. So that is the reason why in 2014, a tender was sent out to build the cardiac catheterization lab, which was supposed to come on stream. Unfortunately, the government changed, and we were out of office in 2015. But since 2015 to now, 8 years later, you are saying, and this government is telling us that they cannot build this cath lab and have it available to the residents, the population, not only of the south of Trinidad, not only the SWRHA patients. SWRHA serves 600,000 people, but also to the entire country. So I think, my brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, this is a totally unacceptable situation. Every time the matter has been raised in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, the minister comes with a different excuse. First is the tenders went out, being assessed, and now we are hearing another story about some joint arrangement with some foreign country. But we want to give you the assurance, ladies and gentlemen, that we will not rest until that facility is built in San Fernando Hospital, whether it is under this government or whether it will have to come under the next government under Kamala Prasad Bisesa. So they talk about the Point 14 highway saga in Pimundal, but you know, this could easily be termed the cardiac cath lab saga. And maybe we might see a report in the Parliament on this. I'm hoping we could see a report in the Parliament on this as to why this is taking so long. But of course, we'll never see that from this government. So, yeah, so I'm here in the car park. Somebody is saying that they built the car park instead, and you're right. You're right. The money that was spent for the car park is something that could have been spent for the cath lab. Yeah? So again, it comes back to the priorities of this government, what they choose to build, but more importantly, what they choose not to build and what services they choose not to offer. But you know, under our watch, we realized that there was limited capacity in the public sector. So what did we do about this? What did Kamala Prasad Bisesa do about this in terms of providing these services which are not available in the public sector? Well, she was instrumental in getting something called the External Patient Program Commission. So under that program, if you had to wait too long, beyond a certain time, I think the waiting time was 3-4 months, depending on the procedure you required, then the government would pay for this program, for your procedure to be outsourced. That program is still there, you know, ladies and gentlemen. Is it being used? Well, let us look at the figures. In the recent budget debate, we looked at the figures for something called the Adult Cardiac Program, which deals with these issues. And in 2021, an allocation of $20 million was made under this program. Only $13.5 million was spent. But you know what is worrying? So this is 2021. The next year, in 2022, $20 million was allocated again, but a mere $5 million was expended. So the minister is coming and saying openly in the newspaper that they have the CPP is still functioning, you could apply for it, but yet we are seeing from the figures here that of the allocation that was given for the 20 million, at the last time, only 5 million was spent. And therefore the question has to be asked, is it that you have less patients want this facility? That can't be true, because we are seeing in the newspaper here that this patient has been waiting for 2 years, right, for this facility. So it has to do with either they're not wanting to spend the money or some sort of inefficiencies in the system. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I'll move on a little bit, and I want to come to certain issues that are taking place. I spoke about the San Fernando Teaching Hospital, and one of the problems this government has is in terms of maintaining facilities. They seem to have a real problem with that, and the San Fernando Teaching Hospital is a prime example of how they are deliberately allowing a facility to run down. I use the word deliberately. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's because of incompetence, but I want to speak about the management issues and what I call the issue of square pegs in round holes, which is what is happening at the San Fernando General Hospital in the SWRHA. We have a situation of something like, like musical chairs being played with the incompetent managers. I'm told that when you reach the height of your incompetence in one department, you are moved to a next department. I'll give you an example. The maintenance of the plumbing system in the San Fernando Hospital really has to be dealt with by somebody who's an expert. And I really want to ask here tonight, that is it true that the general manager of operations has effectively shut down what is called the property services department? This is a department that's responsible for maintenance. Is it true that the general manager of operations has since placed an individual without any civil qualifications, who doesn't know anything about fixing, plumbing and so on, in charge of this responsibility? I am told that the person who is now in charge of ensuring that the facility is maintained used to be a kitchen supervisor at the San Fernando Hospital, my brothers and sisters. I really hope this is not true. I hope that this is wrong information. But it goes to show you, it tells you, really and truly, why the place is falling down. So this is really a situation of musical chairs with incompetent managers. So, my brothers and sisters, I just want to move on to another point, which is at the forefront of all of this. And when we speak of long waiting times, and you would think that the long waiting times is because we don't have enough doctors and nurses. Thank you, Ramona. You would think that the long waiting times is because you don't have enough doctors and nurses in the system. But what is the reality? The reality is that at the current time, you still have over 400 unemployed doctors in the system. This includes many doctors who serve this country and serve the nation and serve the citizens of this country very admirably, took all the risks, faced all the dangers during the COVID-19 pandemic, and they were promised that they would be rehired when the pandemic was over. And the majority of these doctors, I can tell you, are still waiting to be hired in the public sector. So therein lies a big part of our problem in terms of, treating with the human resource needs of this country. And of course, we see how nurses are treated in this country. We have a prime example here of what has happened to a senior nurse. I spoke about this earlier. This is a nurse who is waiting for 2 years to get a procedure. But what about terms and conditions for nurses? We keep hearing, and this has been happening, of foreign countries and foreign recruiters coming to Trinidad and Tobago to take our nurses away, MP Embarrassing, and for very good reason, because our nurses are not adequately compensated or cared for by this government. And of course, that is something that we know has been happening in all of the sectors. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, those are just a few of the issues that I wanted to raise in the health sector. I wanted to stay with the issue of the heart care and the cardiac care, because I think that is a very important issue that touches everybody, touches all of us, affects all of us, if not individually, in terms of family and so on. So, as I close, I want to say that we have to remain very strong. We have a government that is failing in all sectors, but especially so in the health sector. Over 8 years, they have nothing to show. They boast of opening new hospitals. They have opened the Point Fortin Hospital, but the records will show that the staffing in the Point Fortin and the Arima hospitals is still below par. There are still many, many vacancies. This was the information I had in answer to a question in the Parliament, where I had the figures showing that almost 30% of the establishment was vacant. So it means that there was 30% of positions still to be filled. So, ladies and gentlemen, I implore you to remain strong, to remain focused. This is a government that operates by distraction. They try to distract you. They try to distract you from the truth, from the facts of the matter. And they will continue to do that because they have nothing to show for their performance. I want you to remain strong. I want you to remain focused. As you take a little time off, I want to wish each one of you a happy and a safe holiday season, and to come back rejuvenated in January, when the battle will start again, when we will make all the effort to take back Kamla Prasad Bisesa and United National Congress back into government once more. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bodo. And Dr. Bodo made the point, horrors in healthcare. Well, if the whole country is in horror, because this is a horror government. When you drive on the road, it's horrible road. When you go to open your tap, no water. So what we have, this is a horror government. And Dr. Bodo say, we waiting so long to get them out of office. Be prepared, no excuses. Now, today I had the privilege of attending a funeral of a very prominent gentleman in Faizabad, Mr. Arthur Sanderson, a former government minister under the NAR administration. And many years ago, he told me, he said, Councillor Meru, they take all the oil from Point 14, Erin, Faizabad, Pinal, Moruga, Mayaro, you name it, all of South Trinidad, and fix everything in town. And all the areas that are suffering is the areas where the oil came from. The PNM must account. They must account for their 48 years of stewardship and where all the money under all the oil boom went and in whose account it went. So my duty here this evening is to bring on the next speaker. Our next speaker is a foundation member of the United National Congress. I have known him all my political life, which is more than 30 years. I have the pleasure of working with him, closely with him over the last few years. When I met this man, I thought this man was a real barjon, and he's a buff for people and want to beat people and things, you know. He's a genuine, humble, compassionate man who speaks softly, but don't take that for weakness, because when he's ready to blow you out, he could blow you out too. He's a champion in Parliament and outside against crime, corruption, geographic discrimination by this PNM administration. He has worked with residents, protests against bad road, landslip, drainage, water woes, crime, and so much more. A man of the people, a man for the people. He's an attorney at law. He's an economist. He's the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee of the Parliament, Opposition Shadow Minister of Finance. Tonight he will bring the facts to you why you cannot trust this government. Let us welcome the chairman of the United National Congress, your son of the soil, the very distinguished member of Parliament for Oropouche West, Mr. Devendranath Tanku.
Because what don't kill you should make you strong.
Thank you very much, Chairman Mayor Dudnath, colleagues, political leader, and leader of the opposition member of Parliament, the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa, other colleagues presenting on the stage tonight, councillors, viewers online, on YouTube, and on Facebook. Pleasant good night to everybody. Now I have taken a new mantra that economics is not sexy. Economics is not sexy, and many people don't want to hear about economics. It gets them bored. I have a colleague who calls it econobabble because it becomes very complex and debilitating for persons. However, economics is about the production and consumption of goods and services and about the transfer of wealth. And the principles of economics in running a country are basically the same as the principles that you would use in households. You earn money in your households and in your jobs by selling stuff that you would have made or produced in your homes. And sometimes, for bigger items, you have to borrow and pay back on terms over time. Then you spend this money on food, on clothes, you pay for electricity, you pay telephone bills, you buy medicine. And if you are able, many people put aside some savings for rainy days or for investing into bigger things like vehicles or a car, etc., or to pay for your children's education. In the same way, a government earns income through taxation, selling off assets and borrowing as well. So the parallels are there between how it exists in your home and how it exists in government. And then a government is supposed to take the money that it earns and spend that money for the improvement of your standard of living and save some or invest some for the future. But it is critical, ladies and gentlemen, that you pay attention to what this government is doing, because this is your money, and how they spend how they spend your money determines the quality of your life and your standard of living. But you also have to pay attention on how the government is borrowing as well, because at the end of the day, it is you that have to pay all of that money back. Whether you're a taxi driver, a hairdresser, a teacher, a small business owner, once you buy something in this country, you are paying taxes. Whether you're unemployed or a student, once you buy something, you are paying taxes in this country. And therefore, it is your right to know how this government is spending. You know, in our homes in the countryside here, your minister of finance is your wife or your mother. Not so? And I'm 100% sure that many of the women here in this crowd would make better ministers of finance than this gentleman we have called Mendes. Mr. Mbert has spent the last 8 going on 9 years jumping from blame Kamala to blame the unions, to blame COVID, to blame the police, to blame the judiciary, to blame global warming, to blame the Ukraine-Russia war, and more recently to blaming you, citizens. It's like a kangaroo for real, but a very small one. Ironically, at the same time that he's blaming everybody and everything, he's walking around telling the country for the last 8 years, going on 9 years, what a great job he is doing, how the country is doing so well under his stewardship. That is an absolute, total lie. Well, I have lawyers here. No, sir, Brian? I have lawyers here. Let them come with the case. Let me give you some facts, because that is what I like to present when I come to you. When I tell you the minister lie about how well the country is going, how well he has done in the last 8 years, here are some facts. He came in 2015. Net foreign reserves, that's the amount of foreign exchange that we have saved over time. Net foreign reserves, 2015, $10.4 billion he found in the treasury. You know how much is this today? $6.4 billion. That's an improvement? Not at all. Real GDP. GDP is the value of goods and services produced in a country. When a country is doing well, GDP goes up. 2015, real GDP, $187.5 billion. 2022, you know how much it is? $150.4 billion. That is not an improvement, that is a reduction. Number of people employed. 2015, 629,800. 2023, second quarter 2023, that was just recently. 609,800 people. That is not an improvement. That is a worsening of the situation. Net adjusted government debt. 2015, 76.5 billion. 2023, 137 billion. That's how much money they borrow on your head that you have to pay for, and your children and your children's children have to pay for. Murders. Murders. The only thing that going up under this government is murders. Everything else going bad. 2015, 410. 2022, 605. 2023, oh God, I hope it does not get higher than that. Because under this Minister of National Insecurity, things just keep getting worse. But does any of that sound like an improvement? Can you believe anything that these PNM frauds tell you, ladies and gentlemen? But I didn't just come here tonight to tell you what a complete failure Mbert is as Minister of Finance. Every one of you who live in this real world, you all know that already. First hand, as Mayor Meru just mentioned, you know it when you walk outside. When you're afraid, you're living in your house and you're petrified that they will come into your house and rob and murder and kill you. You know that the minister and the government has failed when you drive outside and you have to choose which pothole to go into because they have pothole inside of pothole inside of pothole in Trinidad and Tobago today. You know it, as my colleague just mentioned, when you go to the hospital and they tell you have to wait months and years for emergency surgery to save your life. You know it when you go to the grocery and to the market, when food prices frighten the daylights out of you because food prices have gone up between 50 and 100% under this government. You know it when thousands of young people line up for days to try to get a job in the police service or the prison service or on a cruise ship. You see, unlike Imbert and those sitting in the rowdy cabinet, who have armed security for themselves and their families paid for by you, the taxpayers, we know that the country is in crisis because we live in constant fear of being brutalized by the criminals running this country. But I didn't come here, ladies and gentlemen, for that. I didn't come here to tell you what a failure Imbert is. You knew that already. I came here to emphasize it. But I came here to tell you, to beg you, ladies and gentlemen, to start to pay some attention in what this government is doing with your money. Because they are spending left, right, and center, and if nothing getting better, why? Why are they spending so much? Where the money go in? This country has collapsed under this PNM administration. The poor are getting poorer. The middle class has been obliterated beyond any recognition, but not everybody is suffering. PNM friends, family, and financiers, PNM ministers, their wives, their brother, their father, their sisters, their nenen, they are the ones benefiting from $440 billion spent in the last 8 years and counting. You know how much $440 billion is? $440 billion could pave every single road in this country with $100 bills. 100, could you imagine that? Every single road, track and trace. Who making that money, ladies and gentlemen? Because things bad. You remember the recusal issues? The UNC Buster Mark a year and something ago. That there were ministers using the cabinet door like a revolving door, walking in, excusing themselves, walking out. And when they walk outside, they are walking outside to allow their friends, their colleagues, their partners, I wouldn't say in crime, but their partners, to decide if their project that they have a financial benefit in or their family are benefiting, if that project should go through. I challenge any government minister today to tell this country if there has ever been a single incident where a note come to cabinet and a minister who going to benefit or who family going to benefit step outside and they vote against it. They would not. It's friend thing in this thing. You know, while all of that happening, and the billions sharing amongst ministers, friends, family, financiers, and relatives, etc., there's a CARICOM survey that was done last year into this year that said that in this country of Trinidad and Tobago, in 2023, that there are people who are doing without food for days on end. There are children who are going to school to get a meal, and when we have a holiday, they suffer. That is not me saying that. In a CARICOM investigation provided that information. And you know what the PNM's response to that was? One buffoon told citizens to go back and buy coal pot. One boy organized breadfruit on a coal pot. Ride bicycle to go to your job in Port of Spain. Them fellas jokey, you know. And another idiot told people broadly, stop going to cinema 2 and 3 times a week. Who exactly goes to cinema 2 times and 3 times a week? You see these people living in La La Land. They live in some fairyland that has nothing to do with reality. They lie and they believe their own lies. They are pathological and compulsive liars. You know, in Parang, they have a Parang that's go, lie, 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 that is them. I don't want to sing Rain Might Fall. But I have repeatedly said that you have to be a liar to be a P&M minister. And the more you lie, the higher you go up. Remember King Liar? The King Liar. You got to be a thief, but that's how you go higher. That is how you go higher. A liar, a cheat, a thief. That is how you go higher. But remember the biggest liar? A fella that dealt with Emailgate. What Emailgate? That fella was able to become prime minister. But he didn't stop. I sure all of you in the Southland here remember, we are not closing down Petrotrin. I really don't want to song like him. It will offend me badly. I'll get upset stomach and thing. But he lied then. And those lies have not, they have not stopped, Those lies have continued. Because they will lie to you to your face. Up to today, they're still saying they didn't shut down Petrotrin, they restructured it. They restructured 7,000 to 8,000 direct employees and more thousands of people without a job. The refinery closed down, but they restructure. Lie. Well, I have a list here about Farris who lie and the AG who lie. And recently we find out that Dr. Rowley didn't just lie then, Stuart Long didn't just lie then, Remember Delcy? Delcy was allowed to come into Trinidad and Tobago when nobody else, tens of thousands of citizens, stranded outside, suffering, begging family to keep them, begging friends to keep them. But Delcy could have come in here with a whole set of people from PDVSA. Oil barons came down here. And you know what the Prime Minister and Stuart Young told this country? They come to discuss COVID. Lie. Not a doctor, not a nurse, not a wardsman come. And them come to discuss COVID. You hear lie? That is lie. And that characterizes this whole government and this whole cabinet. It's lie, 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 lie. But that is why you have to spend some attention. You have to focus on how they're spending your money. Because they're coming to you to tell you things bad, They're coming to tell you that things bad. We had to tax you. We had to bring property tax. We have to raise the rate increases, like Barry has been saying. They have to raise the electricity rates. They have to raise water rates. They're going to raise other rates. Just so I'm predicting that the NIS contribution rates are also going to have to go up, and that adds another price increase. Property tax is coming. I really want to spend some time on property tax, but a little tight with time tonight. This country has no right, citizens in this country have no right to be suffering from medicines in hospital. None. $440 billion. By the end of the fiscal 2024, it will be $500 billion spent. We have no right for a child to be going to school without books, for a child to be going to school without school bag, without things in our bag, without food. We have no right for people to be suffering in poverty. But it's happening. And it is happening because while the government is spending money, it is not spending any money on things that you need. It is not spending the money on you. I repeat, it is for friend, family, and financiers alone. Small businesses closing down. Why? Small businesses closing down in this country, left, right, and center, so big business could rise. Who that benefiting? Friend, family, financiers. Ladies and gentlemen, we shouldn't have a crime problem. This country shouldn't have a crime problem. We have enough money to hire enough police, to fix every court in this country, to hire enough judges and juries, etc., 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 to treat with crime the way it should be treated with. But they will not do that. There's a shortage of police officers. There's a shortage in the judiciary. All of that information has come out in the public domain. Shortage left, right, and center of things that they don't care about crime. That's why they open the borders. They don't care about crime. That is why they're not equipping the police. That's why the Forensic Science Center is stillborn. They're not treating with any of those things because they simply do not care about your safety. And when you decide to take up the action, when you decide to fight back, when you decide to put things in place to protect yourselves, the Minister of Works, Rohanson, and disappeared all the time, all of a sudden could show up in a particular area to buff up people for building a guard boot. You think that is shameless? Today, ladies and gentlemen, In the age of technology in 2023, a businesswoman from Suchitrace has gone missing for the last 3 months. Nobody knows where she is. Nothing is being done by this government. In Palm East, home invasions by gangs of thieves, thugs, murderers, and criminals are a normal thing. Not just Palm East, right across Oropouche West. Gangs are stalking, and the government is doing nothing. What you have is you have a minister of national security who prostrate like Kumkaran, perpetually sleeping on the job, perpetually asleep. In Parliament, they just have to nudge him to wake him up, and when you nudge him, he lean on the next side to sleep again. What a shameless thing. I don't care if he has a medical problem or not. God forgive me. If you can't do the job, get the hell out. Last year, this gentleman, the same Kumbhakaran, this same gentleman told the Standing Finance Committee that 30% of the CCTV cameras were not working. This year, he come back and tell the same Standing Committee, he's not sure how much fixed, but they're installing 2,500 at a rate of 35 to 50 a day. You know, by today, all them cameras are supposed to be up and running. You know why you're not hearing anything about that? Because from the time Fitzgerald Hines opened his mouth to speak, what you think coming out? The truth? Remember as well, ladies and gentlemen, $1 million spent to buy 20 ladders. You know nobody held accountable for that up to now? Remember the TSTT fiasco? Where the minister come and lie, and TSTT lie too? And the minister come and say, listen, we're going to do an investigation. And when we're going to do an investigation, we'll put it in the public domain. They fire Lisa Egad right afterwards. You hear anything about our investigation since? They don't cover it up. And that's not the only one. There are multiple investigations that have come to the parliament, that have the parliament big announcement made, big rah, 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 we're doing an investigation. And at the end of the day, we have nothing. I am overly cautious that you see this report that is now in the Prime Minister's hands about the tragedy that took place with these divers, that the same thing will happen as has happened elsewhere. Overly cautious, ladies and gentlemen, because the Prime Minister have no role, none, in receiving that. All he's supposed to do is receive it and pass it on. Why are we still waiting days? Why wasn't it done today? Who are you protecting? Remember, this is the same man when he heard about a crime being committed, an alleged crime being committed at Petrotrin. Didn't call the police as head of the National Security Council. He didn't call the police, he didn't call a lawyer. He called a friend to find out how things going. So when his friends are now in charge of Petrotrin and Heritage, etc., what do you think he's doing with that report? Why is it still? It should have been an automatic. Hand it here, hand it to the DPP, etc. Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. Because while this government spending billions, they're coming to you for millions more. I told you about the property tax, I told you about rate increases, I told you about NIS, etc. I want to talk about property tax for 1 second. You know they say they bring in property tax, and property tax will be based on the value of your estate, the rental value. You know that is fake. If you're not earning an income, why are they charging you an income? If you have a front yard, what's the next move? To come and charge you for having a garden? You have a car, the next move is to come and charge you for working taxi? Because it's a ratchet, it is a fake income that they are charging you with, and that is unethical and inappropriate. Ladies and gentlemen, all is not lost. You have the power to make things different. We cannot wait for 2 more years. We must hold this government accountable now, today. Our children and their children are depending on us. We must put aside all these petty differences. Stop taking the PNM chain up, and we must unite. Together we can, ladies and gentlemen. We must unite. And tonight, from this platform, I challenge all of you viewing and listening. We have had 8 years of conmanship, corruption, nepotism, fraud, and lies. This country cannot continue like this for 2 more years. Send me a WhatsApp message or an email. Send the facts. Ask questions yourself under the Freedom of Information request. Share what you know and what you find out and demand answers. Ladies and gentlemen, the time is now. It is time for patriots to assemble. Join us now. You know, it is easy when you look at the state of this country to feel depressed and frustrated. I am buffered and supported by Scripture. I wouldn't quote Scripture here tonight, but I am buffered and supported by Scripture. Tonight, we are in the season of the Advent, and the message of the first week of Advent is hope. So while I've spoken to you about the negative things, I want to leave you with a hopeful message inspired by this blissful and joyful season. We are a people today living in darkness, but by God's grace, we will have the power to change things and to find our way into the light. I am committed to being your partner. The UNC is committed to being your partner in bringing about a national revival. And as we enter this blessed season, I implore you never to lose hope, no matter how bleak things seem. Because while it is always darkest before the dawn, as sure as day follows, you know it, say it with me. As sure as the day follows the night, the sun will rise again, and we will be back into government led by the Honorable Kamala Prasad Bissessa. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all. May God bless our nation. May we find peace and safety in this season of goodwill. Happy everything to all my people. God bless. Thank you very much.
Because what don't kill you should make you stronger. So my problems is like steroids, boy. I get my doses from all kinds of sources.
Thank you very much, MP Tanku. MP, we know Imbert is a failure, yeah? But $440 billion, nah, man. And yet, the minister telling us no ham and no macaroni pie on a Sunday. That is craziness. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is famously known for giving out 100 keys every single week. So this 100 keys a week would have totaled him to give out 8,700 keys in 5 years. All you know who I'm talking about, right? He was responsible for the construction and the completion of 8 police stations. He also started 3. I want to leave the stage for the lion to roar. Help me welcome MP Dr. Rudal Monilal.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Melville. Thank you all. And good night, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, Dulahin. The political leader, the Honorable Kamala Prasad Bissessa, leader of the opposition, member of parliament for Siparia, parliamentary colleagues, the Honorable Dave Tanku, Member of Parliament from Oropouche West. The Honorable Lakram Bodo, Member of Parliament for Siparia, for Faizabad. The neighbor of the boss lady. The Member of Parliament for Princetown is here, Mr. Barry Padarat. The Member of Parliament for Couva South, I'll be careful if I say north, Couva South is here. Rudranath Indar Singh, other members of parliament, Senator, the Honorable Deputy Political Leader. Give a round of applause to Ms. Jerlene John. Chairman, Mayor, His Worship Mayor Meru, of course. Councillors, aldermen, members of the local government fraternity, brothers and sisters assembled at the Penal Presbyterian School, brothers and sisters listening on the various social media platforms. The Honorable Rishi Sicharan is here as well from Caroni East, welcome. Members of the NATEX, brothers and sisters all. Tonight we meet in a season of giving. But for the bandits in this country, this is a season of taking. So that we live at a time of great fear, insecurity, and as Brother Tanku has said, this man has embarked on his karmic sleep. We don't know if he inside, he outside, or he between the door. That is correct, and it's not Miami. So we don't know where he is. You don't hear from the Minister of National Security anymore. You don't see him. The country is without a government. The Prime Minister has taken off. He has gone with Passepartout around the world in 80 days. He gone back to London on a very curious trip. That trip he announced before. He went to Saudi Arabia and then came back because they deposited him in Barbados like a garbage bag. He comes back now and spends a couple days in Trinidad, change his clothes, and he going back now to London. And the Prime Minister of this country cannot tell us what he's going there to do as Prime Minister. He cannot say. He's not going there to conduct any business. I suspect this man is going for Christmas shopping or something like that. And using taxpayers' money. But he has coined an interesting phrase. I take note of these things. Over the years, we often, the population, often attack politicians and leaders in particular when they travel the whole world. Every government, it's the same thing. They're traveling all over, man, spending taxpayers' money because it is a lot of taxpayers' money. These people travel first class. They eat the best, they drink the best, they take security. They go and party all over the place. So Rowley say now, he said, well, I have to travel because, I have to go where the power is, where the dealers are, where the deals are made, where you have the important people of the world. Well, why you don't stay there? If them is the important people in the world, the important people are the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Those are the important people. And Rowley is in London parading himself to witness the signing of some agreement or memorandum or something like that. One is not even sure if that has legal force. He's going to witness, But you could have witnessed over the TV screen from Trinidad and save us what could be $1 million of travel. Keith Rowley has abandoned this country, and this country must now abandon Keith Rowley. That is the point. Brothers and sisters, over the last few days, I'm sure some of you have seen in the newspaper a story about Penal, our beloved neighborhood where we assemble today, the salt of the earth. This part of the country, Penal, Debe, South Trinidad, has produced some of the most brilliant people, led by the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisasa, but many others as well. They have worked hard, toiled in the fields, toiled in agriculture, in manufacturing, in services, produced the best of the best. It was our vision, you will recall, brothers and sisters, to create an education center and Penal, Clark Road. Do you know we started that education center with the Parvati girls and the Shiva boys? It was 90% completed. A school, 2 schools, also an administrative complex. Well, we come into that now. Today, when you look, Daily Express is sprawling complex wrapped around by bushes. Bushes. They have this thing now at that place. That was supposed to be the educational point of gravity for South Trinidad to create the human capital, to push our country forward. You need human capital, not just mineral resources. You need human beings. And that center was meant for that. Also to create jobs, to create, an education center, something like what St. Augustine is in the East-West Corridor with the schools, the university, and so on. Today, it is overrun by bush. It have Karai vine running there along the school. 2 vagrants sleeping there and cow and goat and things that go to graze. That is the PNM. That is what they do there. By the UE, we built a University of the West Indies South Campus, brothers and sisters. You know what is that? Nothing is happening there. That campus is bigger than some of the universities in the whole Caribbean at Debe. They will not open it. We wanted to put the law school. They will change the name. They change everything about 25 times. Now they say it's an offshore medical complex. Well, we'll believe that when we see that. When you see it, you're going to believe it. But they will not open it because they do not want to open industry, open education centers. They punish children. The Ramaitres Hindu school nearby here, I have been clamoring to open that school for how long now? Anybody who see me in parliament, the first question on every order paper, every session is, when you go open the Ramaitres Hindu school? Every year. I come with the same thing. I don't waste time. From the time the president make a statement and the parliament open, I file the question. Well, now they are telling us on December 11th, they're going to open the school. Now, it's only the PNM government could open a school when all school closed. Only the PNM could open a school when all school closed. They're going to open the school December 11th. I mean, what is wrong with these people? What is wrong? So this is this is what they have done in these areas to discriminate against the people, to leave them out of development. Brothers and sisters, over the last few years, we have had the last 8 years in particular, coming up to their 9th year. These are lost years of development. You know, sometimes I meet foreigners, and foreigners tell me, they say, Rudy, how did the PNM do it? I say, how you mean? I didn't know they'd do anything, Anil Roberts. They say, how did they destroy your country? Ladies and gentlemen, could I invite you to stand and welcome the most illustrious daughter of this soil, the former Prime Minister, the Member of Parliament for Siparia, Leader of the Opposition, the Honorable Kamla, the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa,
I get my
and Dr.
doses
Gregory Bisesa.
from all kinds of sources, and all of them still can't kill me now. You see, as them sink me on the high floor, ride out the storm, them just like a boat. So as they box me down, so I get up. They have to wonder how others get up, and every crack I see, I just see through. And by the help of God, I just get through. I just want stop. I feel like hope. Move any mountain, I trample any building like hope. Man better than monster. Dismantle any structure, boy. Trample them, trample them, trample them, trample them.
A round of applause to welcome the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa in her hometown. I think we should change the name of this place from Penal to Kamla. Anyway, I don't announce policy. Huh? It's not my job to announce policy, you know. Hey, thank you, Melvin. Thank you very much. So, brothers and sisters, I was telling you about the discrimination against the people of these areas. And the PNM doesn't understand that when you discriminate against one center, you discriminate against others. When we created Point Lisa's Industrial Estate, it was for everybody to come and work there. When we create a hospital in Couva, it is for people to come to work there from every part of Trinidad. It is not for the people of Couva. When you build administrative complex, the people who will work there is not only people from Penal or Debe, it is from the whole country will get jobs, create industry. The people of the area will get, a way to uplift themselves. But the PNM doesn't understand that. And Rowley, at a time like this, as I told you, he has become an international loafer. That is what he is now, an international loafer. Just looking to travel this whole world, get all the, what they call these mile marks and so on. Yes, and the per diem from the government. And go all over the world, brothers and sisters, and we must take note of this travel. Frequent flyer miles, they call it, I think. I don't know too much about these things, So, brothers and sisters, there are two issues I want to raise briefly before I leave the stage. And one, the PNM, everything the UNC built and the People's Partnership built is standing today. The cyclodrome, the aquatic institution, the Couva Hospital, the San Fernando Teaching Hospital, the police station, the homes HDC. Not one HDC house fall down. built by the People's Partnership. No, I have to say that. Because if I don't say that, I'm not saying that. Not one HDC house built by the partnership, Jolene John, ever moved down a hill. Not one house. You know, today I got information. Now, we were in the parliament on a particular track. For 2-3 years now, we're on that track watching something. I said nothing because I don't like talking unless you know some fact. So I was monitoring in South Trinidad this project in San Fernando called the redevelopment of Skinner Park. I was monitoring that. I said nothing. The contractors, I believe, are from Tobago. I even don't have a problem with that. It is a country called Trinidad and Tobago. Nothing is wrong if a contractor comes from Tobago, they get the job. But nothing is wrong if a contractor comes from Trinidad and get a job in Tobago as well. Nothing is wrong with that. Be careful. So they spent, at first, they told us $147 million for that project. But when we go down there, it's the same Skinner Park gate that they had in 1958. It's the same fence. It's the same lawn tennis court. It's the same everything. No, I'm coming to that now. That's where I'm coming now. So, brothers and sisters, when they said 147, we said, no. Tell us the total. We want total. Because you know PNM now. They will tell you a cost, but they will slip in later other costs. Then they come and say now it's almost $200 million for Skinner Park redevelopment, which was really for 1 or 2 pavilion. That was not a new place that had infrastructure. It had water, it had electricity, it had drainage all the time. When I was a small boy, I went to see Trinidad and Tobago play an international football match. Leroy Span was the captain. We played international soccer at Skinner Park, San Fernando. Here this one, they built this thing. Rowley gone a few months ago, cut ribbon and thing, open. He's so happy. The people of South Trinidad get Skinner Park. 200 million, gone. Well, here what now? They put the pavilion in the wrong place. In layman terms, I can tell you the technical issue, but in layman terms, they make a mistake. And they put the pavilion in the wrong place. So today, Skinner Park, which we were so proud of, you can't play a football match. You cannot play football in Skinner Park. Otherwise, to take a corner, you have to run out from the toilet. They put the pavilion out of sync with the cycle track and the field. And today, do you know the intercol matches involving presentation that are doing very well this year? They cannot play a college football match in Skinner Park, San Fernando. The secondary school league, I've told them we can't play there. That's a danger to players and so on. Because when you have to take a run up, you have to leave the field and run up to take a corner. So brothers and sisters, $200 million gone, and they may have to break down the pavilion in Skinner Park. That's the same UDCOT that is doing the central block in Port of Spain. Shanghai gone. They bring in 10 contractors. The 10 gone. You know, they're gone back to China Rail again for that contract. This UDCOT under Noel Garcia is back to their old tricks, Jolene. They are back to their old tricks, Las Alturas. That is what they are. So brothers and sisters, the issue in Skinner Park is that it is out of sync. It's something called specs. The specs are wrong. They went and I mean, again, I cannot blame any contractor that way. I don't know what they were paid to do. But the long and short is you cannot play sport there, the kind of sport that you are accustomed with. And this is the same thing they did with the Brian Lara. You remember the PNM built the Brian Lara? You cannot play an international cricket match in Brian Lara. Everything had to be a FET match. It is only recently spending millions and millions that they can play now limited overs international matches, but not a test match. In fact, Brian Lara is known for his great distinction in test cricket, and you can't play a test match in the Brian Lara Stadium. That is where anything the PNM built. And Jolene John told us a few days ago, I was on a good track, always remember it is the UNC, it is the People's Partnership that built Trinidad and Tobago. So don't let nobody fool you. I challenge anybody, find a highway built by the partnership. Find a stretch of road that mash up like the mosquito crack. Like the mosquito crack down here. They boasting, Alwari and others, boasting about the San Fernando waterfront project. Well, let me tell you something. I just have to pass there often to go to a gym and thing. I actually am in a gym. So, it should have seen me if I wasn't. So, I pass there often enough. All day talking about waterfront development. When you go down, there's 2 stray dogs and a crapo. They try to make a highway, it mash up, so you are still onto a 2-lane road you're driving, not 4-lane and so on. They go by the thing is the same fish market. In 1970 something, I used to carry my mother to buy fish there in the morning. It is the same fish market, the same road, the same everything. A place called Happy Corner. I hope some of you don't know about that place. Still there, brothers and sisters. So nothing has changed in San Fernando. There's no waterfront project of any kind. And they built now, they give, and I'm not going to call name of contractors because I don't know what they were paid for. They built part of the highway. You know, Brian, all the water started back up on that part of the highway now. The new highway is flooding before it is even open. This is the PNM, and when you look at us, we built the fire stations, Mayaro, Pinal. They don't have a fire tender here, I understand. We built the hospitals, we built the schools, over 100 schools. And I raised the point earlier using my article here about what has happened at the education center in Pinal, subject on Sunday, where I tell you, cow and goat grazing, 2 vagrant living there and Karaili vine running. You know the PNM, anytime they have a speech that's coming for election, they will come again, apart from the corruption issues and so on, which is a lot of, I can't say it here, but wrong things. So, they come with OPV. When we were there, we canceled the OPV, and if we had the OPV, it wouldn't have gone here and crime and thing. You could imagine them managing an OPV? An OPV big like the Queen's Park Savannah. All now duck and chicken would have been hatching on that OPV. They wouldn't have diesel to put there, no manpower. That would have been covered with vine and bush down Shagarama somewhere. Thank God, Mrs. Prasad, Bissessa and others decide to cancel that and retrieve, I think, $1 billion of taxpayers' money. Thank God. They cannot manage 6 small Coast Guard boats. They're going to manage OPV. We go in Parliament, we ask Hines, we say, out of the 6 boats, how much working? He said, I can't tell you how that is a national security matter. We say, how much not working? He said, I can't tell you that is a national security matter. I say, you is a national security matter. That is they cannot fix the boats to patrol our waters, small crafts and so on. They want OPV. I'm talking about OPV. Brothers and sisters, so I told you, we need an investigation into the Skinner Park. $200 million and you can't play schoolboy football in Skinner Park, San Fernando. We built the Manny Ramjan, the Atto Bolden, the Larry Gomes, the Dwight York. That's a UNC government did that. They run them thing down. Once it's UNC, they run it down. Scarborough Hospital, we had to finish that project for them. They mess it up. These people, when we get back there in a few months, to clean up their mess is the next big problem, you know. Jolene has a famous story in the HDC estate in Pleasantville. You literally had to clean up the mess because they didn't put any sewer plant. And every week, I think she had to send in trucks and thing there. That is how they have no vision. I told you last week, these are people, if you give them a parlor, they will bust it in quick time. Brothers and sisters, before I leave, my issue I'd like to raise concern the barrier divers and this report. As you all know, the report of that commission of inquiry has been handed over to the president and the prime minister. The prime minister has absconded. He has gone. He's nowhere to be seen. By the time we see him next, he might have hair on his head. He will be unnoticeable. So he has gone his way. The report is here. Tonight we call upon this government to do not delay. Make this report public immediately. Do not sanitize this report. Do not deduct. Do not take marker and write off people's name and company name. If it is that persons connected to the PNM have been found culpable, let it stand in the public domain. Let us read. And we don't need parliament. They abandoned the parliament too. When the last time you all see it at parliament here? They just pack up the parliament, put a padlock on the Red House, and they go on their way, you know? They go on their way. This country is not being governed by the parliament. Rowley gone, parliament shut down. Everything. So brothers and sisters, they don't need parliament to put the report. You can place that report on a website. on a website and make it public. Let the population read. Do not sanitize that. That is a serious matter. And remember, we warned you during that time. In fact, it was the opposition that called for that commission of inquiry. In fact, we should get the report before Rowley. Yeah? We should get the report before Rowley. He didn't want none. So, that has serious implications. The closure of Petrotrin is connected to the death of those divers. When they closed Petrotrin, they sent home all the experienced health and safety men and women who were trained in that area and managed health and safety to prevent such a fatality. The OWTU, one of the most militant and powerful trade union in the Caribbean, police the port. A union don't allow it that way, health and safety, fatalities and problems and so on. Unions don't do that. Part of the job of a trade union is to police health and safety. And the union was very militant as it regards to the port. And today I am telling you that if those things are in the report, I don't know the report. I want report I ain't get yet. But if that is in the report, do not take it out, don't mark it off, don't scratch it off. Call the names of the company, even if they are connected to the People's National Movement. Once they are held accountable, brothers and sisters, tell them do not sanitize that. Brothers and sisters, it is time, when you think of how people die in this way, and this was February 2022, I told you before, persons like myself or the MPs, we were in the car park a Sunday night, I believe it was, and there was an absence of government, of authority. The people's family were in the car park standing up or sitting down on a pier on the ground somewhere. Some of us as MPs, you know, we went and buy food for the families because the government of Trinidad and Tobago could not care to give a cup of coffee, to give a sandwich. We did that. Embarrassing, correct? Not even a tent. They called MPs of the UNC to help in the best way. David Lee is here tonight. He knows this. He was helping there on that occasion. The government was absent. No leadership at all. If we were in power, Kamla Prasad Bisasa would send half the cabinet down there and say, stay there until these people come out here. Recently, you all recall 41 miners or so in India were trapped. The government responded. The government intervened. That government intervened one time, brought in international help as well, and ensured that they saved every single life. This government was absent during that crisis. In fact, this government should be charged for corporate manslaughter. And it is time, maybe we consider legislation for corporate manslaughter so that you can charge people for their criminal conduct when it leads to death. Industrial death is called. When it leads to death at the place of work, persons, directors, managers who are the brain, the controlling mind behind something. There's a way they'll describe that in the industrial relations law. You can charge them for manslaughter. Corporate manslaughter legislation is in England since 2007, more or less, in place. We don't have to go far to find, precedent and example and so on, brothers and sisters. But the Attorney General should be doing that. But where he gone now? Anybody know? When the last time we see him? We haven't seen him in a long while. Not that we want to see him, but we haven't seen him. And while that is happening, I will just, raise a flag, raise a John D on a matter. We are being told that a senior executive in the judiciary is now in some type of consultancy work with the Attorney General in the Solicitor General's office. They are doing something, but involved in some way in working with the Attorney General and is a senior manager in the judiciary. Tonight we asked a question. I don't know. I haven't seen any contract or anything. I've heard whether or not the judiciary is doing that. They ought not to do that. Because you all remember this crisis where the state is losing a lot of cases by default. Default is not, look how brilliant lawyers I have in front of me now. I don't know which one to call. But default is not a judgment, it's not a ruling of the court that way on the merits of a case. It's an administrative issue that you fail to file paper, defense, whatever. But how come a member of the judiciary is now trying to help the Attorney General? That flies in the face of the separation of powers, and also it compromises the integrity of these institutions. And that is something that I leave right there. Other speakers, and on another time, We'll be looking at this issue. We'll raise that issue, I'm sure, in the near future. So brothers and sisters, tonight, as I leave you, I want to indicate that report of the Paria and the Paria divers, the tragedy, must be made public. And we must honor those men who died and the one who is alive but so traumatized, really. We must honor them. We must honor their lives, that they sacrificed their lives in that way. We must honor them. And never forget, don't mind the Commission of Inquiry finish, we must never forget those men. We must never forget, and maybe when we are in office as well, we must at point up here roundabout administrative building, the Health and Safety Department should be named in honor of these men. So forever, we will know that the PNM killed them. That the PNM caused the death and tragedy. We must never forget that. You see what happened? The PNM, they want you to forget that tragedy. They want you to forget it. Never forget it. They caused that by their lack of action, lack of will. They cause it. So brothers and sisters, on those matters, those issues I'll raise on the next occasion. I said we have other things. I mean, Brother Tanku here was extremely good in raising those matters of roads and water. And so in our areas, I don't have to tell you. In fact, I don't have to tell you about bad road. You have to tell me. You know more than me which road bad and so on. But we have to repair it. The United National Congress is a party, the People's Partnership. When we are there, we fix things, we do things. We don't complain. We don't cry and moan. We have this, we don't have that. We fix. We got a program and we fix. And we are on the road. We are on the road, as the old Kelvin Ramnath used to say. I can feel it in my bones. I can feel victory in my bones. And it's not arthritis. So I can feel victory. I can smell victory. We are touching victory. Unite. Do not be taken aback by detractors and so on. Last time I said something and everybody will kill me. I said, listen, it have no election in the party. So I am a simple, logical man. If there's no election and people campaigning, that means they have to be delusional. That's what I meant. That not that you're mentally ill necessarily. But if there's no election for leader, but you campaigning, that delusional behavior. And then something else I see, and I promise to God I wouldn't say this, I see some TV show with people in some Mickey Mouse business. If you were the Prime Minister, what you could do about Venezuela? Man, see what you could do about the bridge or the pothole on the side of the road now, man. Try and fix the pothole in front of the road. What you could do with Venezuela and Guyana. I mean, that just remind me, when I saw that, these beauty contests, when we were growing up, sometimes we watch a beauty contest and they ask the girl, if you was president of the United States, what would you do first? And she said, well, we'll solve poverty, we'll do this. As opposed to the girl that actually, what's your favorite dish? She said, satellite. So, brothers and sisters, don't take on this kind of Mickey Mouse business. That's my serious point now. Do not be distracted. Do not be distracted. Be focused. Mobilize, organize, agitate. We have one leader, one party, one vision. And we will form the government of Trinidad and Tobago. We have the human resources. Sometimes we don't see it. Sometimes we don't say it. We have in our parliament men and women, doctors, lawyers, accountants, managers, social community activists, dynamic people, PhDs, educators, hard-working trade unionists. We have the resources to run this country. The PNM don't. This is why whether they reshuffle cabinet or not is a waste of time. It will change nothing. We must not talk about cabinet reshuffle. Get them out, reshuffle them out of the Red House, out of Whitehall, out of the Diplomatic Center, and return Kamla Prasad Bisesa and the United National Congress. Long live the great people of Pinal Debe. Long live the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And long live our great party of unity, equality, and national justice. Thank you.
May you go see blood, and if you squeeze me, you go feel the love. We are one people under the sun, one nation under the law. So who feel the black? Who feel the white? I don't know. But it's settled tomorrow night. Who feel the wrong? Who feel the right? Come and go. And all who feel they're too bright, let me jump up. Let me wind up. Party non-stop. Ramage dingo lekel kete, we come to play mass. Every creed and class, don't let nothing pass. Like a repetitive, all the love inside away.
First woman Prime Minister, first woman Attorney General, first woman to chair the Commonwealth of 54 nations, first woman opposition leader. Welcome KPP Plus, solid everywhere.
Like a repetitive, all the love inside away.
Good evening to all of you. Thank you very much for joining us here in your numbers in this cottage meeting. Yes, Melvin, thank you very much. Let us thank our chairpersons this evening, Councillor, Ramona Victor, give her a round of applause. Mayor Donat Meru, thank them all, and the powerful lineup of speakers here tonight, MP Tanku, MP Dr. Bodo, and MP Dr. Munilal. Powerful speakers all here tonight in this lineup. And we are in a very nice place. My office is just 3 minutes away from here. But here is a confluence of all these constituencies. You may or may not know that. Coming together here, the constituency of Siparia, the constituency of Faizaban, and the constituency of Oropouche East, and the constituency of Oropouche West, the lion himself. So thank you all very much. Thank you. Let us also welcome MP Dr. Sisharan, MP Padarat, MP Indar Singh, MP David Lee, Senator Jalen John, Mayor Faik, are you here? Thanks for joining us down here, and Deputy Mayor Melissa, Senator Damian Lyder, Senator Anil Roberts, all the councillors and all the men tonight, welcome and thank you for being here. I have several matters I would like to raise tonight, and before I get into the substance of that, I want to welcome all of you again and thank you. I want to extend best greetings, best wishes to all of you for a holy, very blessed Christmas season, filled with goodwill, filled with happiness and peace. I ask you to reach out even more to the many distressed and less fortunate persons suffering some form of hardship, and there are many in our country. I urge you to be extremely cautious with your safety and security, since blood continues to flow in our unending violent crime crisis. As I said before I go into the substance of issues, I just want to share some party matters with you. I had announced that we will be opening nominations for the general elections so that we will be ready whenever those elections are called. Tonight, I want to advise you to take notice that the forms will be available from Monday, the 11th December at the party headquarters in Chaguanas, between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4 p.m., except, of course, during the lunch hours. Every registered member of our party who has been a member for over 1 year is entitled to collect a form and file a nomination. Our constitution is clear. You have to be a member for at least 1 year. Only then will you qualify to become a nominee for general elections. We have had a lot of inquiries for these nomination forms, and so we request you to please call the head office. The staff will give you an appointment date and time, starting from Monday, as I said, 11, to collect. There's enough time for everyone who wants to get a form. Karen is the one at the headquarters dealing with these forms. There are new sections to be filled out, and so she would go through with you these new parts of the form that have to be filled, other procedural issues, and so we're allocating time each day from the 11th where the staff will provide you with an appointment time. We are doing this because of security issues. We do not need a convergence of a mass. We don't need a carnival band. We need to be serious. This is serious business. So the staff has asked for measures because when the office and yard are crowded, they will not be able to monitor what is happening for everyone's safety. So these are the safety measures. You call, you get an appointment, you go and collect your form and sign in at the head office. You will not receive a form if you walk in without an appointment. This, I say, is important. Call head office, get the appointment. We do not need any juve ban, as I say, conversion on the headquarters. Go at that time, ask any questions you want, and get your forms and file your nomination papers at the earliest opportunity. Now, I gave an update on a previous occasion at one of our cottage meetings. Local elections, budget, all the things we've been doing. The cottage meetings we've started again. The pavement reports going very well. And let me congratulate MP Tanku, who is the main organizer for the meeting tonight. We thank him and his constituents. And of course, the others who are here. We've had several party events, and I say I'm updating you because some people don't know because they don't go to anything and they don't read the news. So I want to congratulate MP Arnold Ram, who hosted our 5K run yesterday in Chaguanas. That was a resounding success. Arnold is an exceedingly hard worker for our beloved party. He has organized previously football tournaments, cricket matches, card competitions, and now this 5K run. All of these have been very profitable, bringing in some much needed funding into the party. Can we thank everyone?
Now is the time for it to jam on somebody. Hand up in the air, madness everywhere. It is with DNA. So get on bad when we on the roadway. We like we always. Tell them bring up with DNA.
At the El Dorado Pan Tent, Aura Road. Of course, you're invited. And you can tune in to hear the speakers at that meeting, local government reps and our DPL John, MP Sicharan, Senator Nakin, and our Tunapuna Piako Corporation Minority Leader Councillor Sukde Praki Bharat. So join in for that on Thursday. I advise you again, our UNC Christmas dinner is on December 16th. Tickets are on sale. You can get them from the MPs, from senators, councillors, and national executive. I hope I can see some of you all there on the 16th of December. Further activity, party activity, all MPs are advised to do appreciation events in their constituencies, distribute hampers, and of course Christmas treats. We are awaiting the government's giving out or distributing the food cards that were promised. You remember when we were in government, whether it was Diwali, Eid, Christmas, we did several things. We gave all the organizations for that particular event, we gave them grants to assist their congregations. We gave, we moved the VAT off the prices of certain basic items. And in addition, we gave out hampers in every single constituency. This year, today is already, the 4th of December, and we have not had any word from government about the food cards that they promised. As Munilal told us, Rowley absconded, so the whole government collapsed. So today I'm calling on the government to give the promised food cards to every MP in this country. Every single MP. And I ask the opposition MPs, when you get these food cards, and of course their own hampers that you will raise to give out, to give to the less fortunate. I want to make it clear that these food cards, should you get them, must go to people who need them. These cards and hampers should be not used for politicking, to leverage, to gain political support for yourself. Please treat the less fortunate with respect and dignity. If any MP or their staff tells you that you need to support that MP politically to get a hamper or food card, please call or message me ASAP and we will deal with it right away. They will only have these hampers and food cards. Why? Because you voted for them to put them there. And it's only there because they are MPs of United National Congress. They will have none of this if they were not MPs of the UNC. The only prerequisite you need is that you must be in need of that hamper or that food card. So food should not be used as a political tool to gain support. That is why I call for every single MP, whether PNM opposition, that the government should distribute these food cards ASAP so we can get it out to people in need. Most MPs, I ask of you to host a children's Christmas treat. Our treat in Siparia, I can advise, is on Saturday the 9th of December, which is coming Saturday. And I've recommended for MPs a Christmas appreciation event for your activists in your constituencies. Do you agree with that? We treat the children and we take care of our activists in each constituency. And thank you. I hope you'll help us find the treats and the toys. You will? Okay. I'm coming to look for you. We're coming to look for you. Wow, we will. And of course, last Saturday, Dr. Munilal celebrated his birthday. Can I say how many years? No? All right. He will tell you. He celebrated his 16th birthday, which means he cannot vote and he cannot be an MP. So I should tell them how many years. We congratulate him, wish him a belated happy birthday on his 57th birthday so he could vote and he could file a nomination paper as well. So these are some party activities. We'll keep you updated as we go along. And when there are those say, well, what is the party doing? You'll be told, the party or UNC party is working hard, working strong, and we will continue so to do. On February 25th, 2022, 5 divers woke up in the morning. They left their families. 4 of them never returned home. I remind the nation, several of you have spoken, but I want to speak of them because of a very painful tragedy. Their names: Faisal Kuban, Rishi Nagesab, Kazim Ali Jr., and Yusuf Henry. May their souls rest in peace. The lone survivor, Christopher Budram, he shared the horrific nightmare he endured. I remember speaking to him and he said he could hear the knocking from the pipe. He says that song haunts him up to today. Haunts him because he knew that they could have been rescued, they could have been saved. And he endured that nightmare, crawling through that pipe. Just the thought of that, to crawl through that pipeline, I mean, it is mind-blowing, mind-blowing, that nightmare. 3 hours crawling through that pipe, desperately fighting to survive. A report was submitted, as Monilal told you, to the president last Friday by Chairman Lynch. 15 million has been spent on this inquiry and counting, but shamefully, not one black or red cent was given to the families of these men. Not one, up to today, not one. Not one. Chairman Lynch was very clear. He said what happened was not an act of God. You know what that means? It was not an act of God. So what can that be? What can that mean? What is left to be to understand? If it was not an act of God, then it was action or inaction of human beings. Not an act of God. Not an act of God. It was something that was done, not done. Act or action or omission. Munilal explained it for us. And that is why that report must be made public as soon as possible. We must know what happened so we can avoid it from happening again. We must know what happened so where the blame lies. Dr. Munilal called for corporate manslaughter. Wherever the blame lies, they should take that blame. But we must never ever forget, as he told us, we must never ever forget, because we make sure it doesn't happen again. Because if we don't learn from our mistakes, we are doomed to repeat the same mistakes of the past. Several other reports have been hidden away. The CLICO report. I filed a freedom of a cause to be filed a FOIA to find out what happened to that CLICO report. The Prime Minister came in the Parliament years ago and he said what? He said, no, we're not making it public. I'm passing it to the Attorney General and the DPP for them to see if there's any criminal conduct. Don't wait to find out criminal conduct. Publish the report. Put it out on the public. Let people see that report now. You cannot abscond and hide that report as you've done with so many others. And that CLICO report up to today has not seen the light of day. You know why? We speculate. We ask, is it because PNM persons were implicated in that Clico report? Remember Faris Al-Rawi? I'm not saying he's implicated. That same Faris Al-Rawi was working with Clico in one of their branches. Can't remember exactly where, but in one division of that, he was there. He was implicated in that regard that he was a member. I do not say there was any criminal conduct by him, but we want to know why up to today you're hiding that report when so many people suffered. Now, with this report, people died. With this incident, with that report, people lost their money. People lost money. Up to today, they have not been able to recover that money from when Clico sank. So, Mr. Rowley, give instructions so you're acting. In fact, that fella should win an Oscar nomination, an Oscar for acting on so many occasions. Call him Imbert. He's a great actor. He has acted because why? As I really tell you, and I will tell you, the frequent flyer is always flying out the country. Doesn't have time to govern here. So send instructions. You have phone, you have text, you have emails. Send an instruction to Colin Imber that report is the acting Prime Minister. So the fact that Rowley is not here, the country is not without a Prime Minister. You have a Prime Minister in action, acting. Okay? And therefore, please give instruction that report should be released ASAP to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. As we move on, we'll call election, and then when we are in office, we'll publish that report on the same day that we join the government of Trinidad and Tobago. When we form that government, on the same day, we will reveal these hidden reports. So we are awaiting Rawls's decision about these famous proposed anti-crime talks. Remember? His primary source of anguish and pain was Gary Griffith, whom I agreed to leave out, exclude. I said, Gary boy, stay home now. Let's just get these talks going, because if we save one life, we save many. So if Gary Griffith is troubling Prime Minister Rowley, he don't want to see me, don't want to talk to him, Gary, stay home. Gary said, yes, I will give up to make sure this thing happens. So we excluded Gary, hoping that this man will calm his fears and insecurities and his anguish about Gary. Since then, not a word. Still not a word. From October 14th, I shared my concerns. Thereafter, I've shared with the Prime Minister again. Gary, not there, man. You don't have to be frightened. Come, let's do these talks. Not a word. I hope that they can invite other stakeholders. If you don't want Gary, there are many other stakeholders. Everyone has tried to reason with this man through letters, public calls, private messages. His behavior pattern of treating national issues is almost predictive. You could predict how he'll behave. When he returns from this lavish taxpayer-funded trip from London, I can bet you that he will speak for another 2 hours in a press conference and boof everybody all over again. That is his behavior. As I said before, the UNC will come to you. We will begin our own anti-crime consultations throughout the length and breadth of our country. We'll come to your communities, listen to your concerns about crime, and share crime-fighting plans. I've asked our 3 deputy leaders to craft the drafting of it and for us to begin. So Deputy Leader John, Deputy Leader Dr. Munilal, and Deputy Leader Dr. Lee, the 3 of you send us a draft program so we can begin anti-crime talks throughout the length and breadth of our country. I turn to another issue. As Prime Minister, I had appointed Professor Selvin Ryan to chair a committee to look at the root causes of crime. I laid that report entitled No Time to Quit, Engage in Youth at Risk. I laid that report in our parliament. This is a copy of the report which I shared with you some time ago, and would like to again raise this report. It is about 437 pages of labor done by the late Professor Ryan in that committee that I had set up to give us some ideas to deal with crime. Together with Professor Ryan on that committee was Dr. Indira Rampasad as Deputy Chair, Dr. Lennox Burdard, Professor Patricia Mohammed, and Dr. Marjorie Thorpe, all persons of great value and great commitment. It was not a UNC or partnership report. It was a report by qualified experts who spent long hours of labor to create this 437-page report to give us a way of dealing with crime, and especially youth at risk, which is where we are seeing a lot of the crime now coming out of the young people. They have never picked up this report. And if they do, then we would be able to deal with some of the crime that the country is facing now. But they have no time for this. As we say, they abscond every time there's a problem in this country. In this report, Professor Ryan stated, and I quote, "It became obvious to us that the propensity to crime resulted from certain conditions, including broken and dysfunctional families, juvenile delinquency, peer rejection, failure or disruptive behavior at school, gang membership and incarceration." He continues, as I quote, "This is matched by the availability of drugs, numerous opportunities for young men to gravitate to crime as an easy but dangerous way to earn a living, and a marked change in societal values over the last 6 decades since the promise of independence." End of quote. End of quote. I spoke before, of some of these issues, of the root causes of crime, and some suggestions how we can deal with these things. Here we have seen it all over again, disruptive behavior in schools, the gangs, all of it, really at an all-time high. We had a recent media report. I want to turn to an issue arising out of these matters of the breakdown of society and values. Recent media reports which revealed that over 2,000 cases of sexual abuse of girls and 500 cases of sexual abuse of boys being made to the Children's Authority between 2020 and 2021. Between 1 year, 2020, 2,000 girls sexually abused, and boys, 500 boys in this year, 2020 and 2021. I feel compelled in light of those reports to speak on this matter. The increase in sexual abuse in our society over the past decade has many reasons. Still, 2 of the main concerns are the over-sexualization of children by adults and the pornography epidemic. The innocence of childhood is being destroyed with an overload of sexual content being made available to children. Over-sexualized content is directed at children as young as 5 years old through video games, television shows, cartoons, movies, advertisements, and social media. Individuals are also exposing children to sexually charged conversations, innuendo, music, dancing, and behaviors. I know this is not a nice topic to speak about, but when in 1 year 2,000 young girls have been sexually abused, we have to stand up, we have to talk about it, and we have to discuss how best we can help deal with these matters. Individuals exposing children, as I say, to sexually charged conversations, innuendo, music, dancing, and behaviors. It is not uncommon to see adults engaging in sexually suggestive and inappropriate behaviors in public or private events in the presence of children and teenagers. Individuals and society are forcing children to appear sexually attractive and engage in behaviors that are not age appropriate for the proper mental development of children. Take note, our boys and girls are being groomed through internally on themselves, and adults exploit this. Teens are facing pressure to become sexually active at younger ages because of poor social values. 13-year-old girls and boys are encouraged to look sexually active. 25-year-olds, they've been dressing like they are adults. 25-year-olds, teenagers. You in the home, you have a duty to monitor this and, police it and take charge. Sexually overt behavior targeted at children has become normalized because hypersexualized influencers and advertisers now determine social values. And to compound this, there is an epidemic of pornography addiction affecting both children and adults. Pornography addiction is a severe issue that should not be taboo for discussion. As compared to decades ago, pornography is now readily available on various internet platforms. Pornography addiction is similar to other addictions and can have very serious effects. In addition to mental issues, socialization is affected and individuals' expectations of relationships become skewed, which leads to sexual violence. And this paves the way as we go down the road for crimes, sexual crimes in our society. Pornography addiction is the fastest growing addiction in the world. You know, last week I talked about the drugs and the marijuana and the increase of the age to 25, from 18 to 25. You know, somebody said? They said you should have said that 25 years ago. But 25 years ago, all marijuana was illegal. It is this PNM government that legalized the marijuana, putting from age 18 onwards, and I gave the reasons last week why we should increase that age. And then someone said, you know, I think it was Marlon on a talk show. He said, you know what happened? People don't have to go on the drug block again to find marijuana. Because why? The drug block is now in your house. Because this government legalized that you could plant marijuana in your house. So we are talking about drug addiction. I talked about it last week. This week I'm talking about pornography addiction, which is the fastest growing addiction in the world. Looking for my napkin, I'm sorry, found it. So, this has become a silent epidemic for adults and children. During COVID lockdowns and extended periods where people had to stay home, pornography viewing by children and adults skyrocketed. And this would have been one factor contributing to the increased cases of sexual abuse. TNT is under siege for many crime issues. We cannot reduce sexual crimes without publicly acknowledging the driving factors behind them, even if it is an uncomfortable discussion. I therefore call on government, civil society, TAT, the Media Association, and any willing stakeholders to come together to begin discussions on social, legislative, educational interventions to address pornography addiction and the exploitation and over-sexualization of our children. And all you adults sitting here tonight, you have a duty to think about this, read about it, and do something. When your child dresses up to look like 25 years old, but is already 15 years old, tell her no. Tell them no, you cannot go out like that. I remember when we were growing up, our parents were very restrictive, some of you remember. We couldn't wear clothing without sleeves. Anybody else went through that? Yes, we had to go with a little sleeve. Well, now, no straps. Forget strapless, completely no straps. At that age, under 18, you couldn't do those things. And even when you're over 18, your mother will tell you, hey, you ain't going out like that, No way, not at all. I ask you as parents, you have the first duty in your home. And I ask you and beg you, do not be afraid to discuss this matter. Let us deal with it frontally, because we'll reach a day when we cannot turn the tide back. So I put a duty on you as well as civil society for us to have discussions on these very serious issues. I turn now to our neighbor next door, Venezuela. This current crisis between Guyana and Venezuela, created by Maduro, I think is to whip up nationalism under the false pretext that the international community is mistreating Venezuela. I'll tell you why. Maduro reminds me of another leader. He wants to make himself a victim who is defending the motherland and will paint himself as a great patriotic hero of Venezuela, as Bolivar and thereafter Chavez. He'll be the hero himself. Dictators love to boast about their patriotism, while calling opponents, guess what? Unpatriotic. Think of our leader. Everybody else who doesn't agree with him is unpatriotic. Does that sound familiar as I say? It is straight out of the fascist propaganda playbook. Venezuelan elections are in the air. Elections are coming up. His intention seems to be to deploy the army due to the threat of war and then control the streets and movements of persons to prevent campaigning and protests. Sound familiar? Remember COVID? He may then attack and jail opponents for being in league with the imperialists, whom he falsely accuses of stealing land from Venezuela. Due to these tactics, opposition voters may find they will not be able to vote on election day. He may return to power after the Venezuelan elections and everything will just settle down. So all this big hue and cry, we must not jokingly look at it, but we have to look at his past actions. Why would I say that? I want to remind you of his behavior, Maduro. When I was Prime Minister in 2015, in June 2015, the Maduro government in Venezuela, they proclaimed a presidential decree claiming the maritime waters encompassing Guyana's exclusive economic zone. Been there before, he's done that. They did that then because guess what? Parliamentary elections for the National Assembly were being held in December of that same year, 2015. What did I do in 2015 when I was your Prime Minister? There's an article up on the screen. I don't know if you can see it. Look at that screen. Keep on the screen for a few minutes. This year, that article, headline, Trinidad and Tobago, this is when I was Prime Minister in 2015, when Maduro declared his intentions to invade Guyana about the territorial waters. Trinidad and Tobago stands in full support of Guyana and declares Venezuela's decree as a violation of international law. Backwards, go back, remember. The article continues. The Prime Minister of TNT, Kamala Persad-Bissessar, on Friday announced that her government stands in full support of Guyana in the wake of the decree by Venezuela claiming Guyana's territorial waters. Ms. Persad-Bissessar met with Guyana's then President, David Granger, on Friday morning for bilateral talks. And just after those talks, she indicated that Trinidad and Tobago could not sit idly by and not show its support for Guyana in this latest conflict with Venezuela. The article continues. The Prime Minister reiterated that we pledge our support to Guyana in this matter. We pledge our commitment to support Guyana, and we have always supported Guyana and will continue to do so. Continuing in the article, Trinidad and Tobago shares very good relations with Venezuela, but the Prime Minister said, even as those relations remain unchanged, Guyana will get its support on the border controversy. That was in 2015. That is what I did. I stood up for the people of Guyana in 2015, and the UNC will now stand with the people of Guyana in 2023 and 2024. The same playbook. Venezuelan elections are due in 2024. And so you're hearing the war cries, beating the war drums, mustering troops. Venezuelan elections due 2024. Maduro returns with the same tired dictator playbook. He threatens Guyana and makes territorial claims to whip up national support. It didn't work in 2015. It will not work again in 2023 and 4. I don't want to hear that my support is because Guyana has oil. Discovered oil. At that time, not one drop of oil was pumped out of Guyana soil in 2015 when we gave our commitment as a government and people of Trinidad and Tobago to support Guyana in 2015. So that is rubbish to say, oh, we're only saying this now because Guyana is oil rich. I stood at Guyana before, as I said before, they had a drop of oil out of the soil in July 2015. I also don't want to hear it being said, because they do the dog whistle all the time about race, that we are supporting, the UNC is supporting, because Ghana now has persons in their government, at the head of government, who are Indian. So Indian-led government either. I want you to look at that picture, if we have it up on the screen. That is former President David Granger, whom I supported against Venezuelan aggression in 2015. We stood side by side with him and the people of Ghana. My support was given due to the unbreakable bonds between us and our Guyanese brothers and sisters. And that is what we will do. We will stand with them again. So what is happening now? Rowley sheepishly hides behind the name, he calls it a zone of peace. What is a zone of peace, Rowley? Listen, my clear message to Maduro tonight is, if you interfere with the Guyanese people, you interfere with the people of Trinidad and Tobago. You touch one, and you touch all. We fully support the people of Guyana in this crisis, and we call upon Maduro to obey international law and stay out of the lands occupied by Ghana. I also tell the Guyanese people what I tell you all the time: stand your ground. Stand your ground. You have suffered for too long. Now you have a great future. Don't let anyone take it from you. Stand your ground. And if TNT support with respect to the Dragon Gas deal, if TNT support in that deal means we have to wait longer for that Dragon Gas, so be it. The government must ensure that that Dragon Gas deal does go through, but that the revenue Maduro collects from it is not used for purchasing weapons to use against the Guyanese people or the Venezuelan opposition. We must make sure in whatever arrangements we have with Venezuela that the money they make from that will not end up militarizing through arms and ammunition the Maduro government, which they can then use against the Guyanese people and against opposition forces in Ghana. We should not get into any business dealings with Maduro that could help finance any military action against Ghana. Rowley's talk about the region remaining a zone of peace is not enough. Guyana must know they have the full support with meaningful backing and practical backing from the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Years ago, Eric Williams had told us, years ago, the father of our nation, he had told us, Anil, he is viewed as the father of our nation. Not your father, but he's viewed as the father of the nation. And he had told us that Venezuela had designs on Trinidad and Tobago territory. So you better watch out, what's happening up in Guyana could be happening here in TNT. We must take our position clearly, stand with Guyana and stand with the CARICOM in our own defense. And then I'm reading the newspaper as I come to almost finish here tonight. I see something which is a bogus distraction case filed by the dunce man, dunce himself. Senior dunce Reggie Limo. This government has created a failed state in their 8 going into 9 years. They are desperate for a political distraction because, as Munilal and the others told you, they've done nothing, they've built nothing, they've created nothing. Instead, they continue to destroy. Failure, total failure. Following the collapse of the criminal case against Anand Ramlogan and Gerald Ramdeen, it was clear the Rowley government could not get the Honorable DPP to do their bidding. That became very clear when that criminal case against them collapsed. So what they have done now is to bypass the DPP, and they have now filed what is known as a civil claim, following the exposure of a secret illegal indemnity deal between the government through Faris Alwari and one Vincent Nelson. Questions arise from this scandal that justifies there be a criminal investigation into the conduct of Faris Alwari and Roger Cable Singh to determine whether there was a conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. There should be an investigation into these people. And the questions are, why did Alwari hide this indemnity agreement with Vincent Nelson from the DPP? DPP Roger Gaspars has publicly stated he knew nothing about this indemnity agreement. Second, why was this indemnity agreement not disclosed to Justice Malcolm Holdip before he sentenced Nelson in the magistrate's court? 3. Under whose authority did Arawi and K.O. Singh guarantee no prosecution of Nelson when that is the discretion, that is totally in the jurisdiction of the DPP, has nothing to do with the AG? How could Alwari and K.O. Singh promise a non-custodial sentence when sentences are a matter for the court, not the AG? How they could promise that? How could Alwari and K.O. Singh promise a presidential pardon for Nelson when, again, that is a matter for the Independent Mercy Committee and the President of the country? So they've compromised all these institutions in the promises they made in this indemnity they gave to Vincent Nelson. Alwari and K.O. Singh's misbehavior has implicated several independent institutions that cannot afford to remain silent, and I make these calls in light of what I've just said. I call on the judiciary. Rudy called on the judiciary to answer another question. This is a serious question they have to answer. I call on the judiciary to publicly state whether the illegal indemnity agreement between Nelson and Faris Alwari was ever presented to the presiding judge, the Honorable Justice Malcolm Holdip, before sentences. What's it ever brought to his attention? 2, the Mercy Committee and the Office of the President must disclose any discussions regarding the grant of a presidential pardon promised to Nelson. The TTPS and Anti-Corruption Bureau must state if any senior members of the police service or the Anti-Corruption Bureau colluded with government to give the assurance to Nelson that we face no charges. Faris Alwari must disclose if he sought cabinet approval, or did he consult the Prime Minister before he entered into the illegal indemnity agreement with Vincent Nelson. I call on both Faris and the Prime Minister to say whether there was governmental approval for that indemnity. Faris must state if he requested cabinet approval or consulted the Prime Minister before he paid Nelson's lawyer, Roger K.O. Singh, over $4 million in legal fees, with millions more to his UK legal team. Tonight, I issue a challenge to Senior Duns Amo, the lying Attorney General. You have filed another case against Anand. I hope when you lose that case that you will pay out of your pocket. You will pay the fees out of the pocket, and it will not be the taxpayers of TNT to pay those fees. And I issue another challenge to you, Amo. If you name man, come and argue the case yourself. Come and argue the case yourself in the court of law. This case is a bogus distraction. It is a naked abuse of power. Hounding down Anand, mainly because there's a man fighting every in the courthouse and winning his cases. You have a vendetta against him because you could never match up, you could never fit in the shoes of Anand as a lawyer. So come, if you're a man, come to court and fight the case for yourself. Today, I thank you all very much again. I urge you to please be more vigilant during the season and even after that. These criminals are lurking outside our banks to pounce on the elderly. They're near our children's schools. They invade our homes, and the reign of terror is endless. If you're going to the bank, the ATM, especially to withdraw money, do so knowing you'll be targeted and robbed. Have family members accompany you, especially older people. Take different routes from your home to the bank. Banks have been making mega profits in the billions, and they must step up security outside of the bank. Criminals are sitting inside and outside, watching and waiting to pounce. These commercial banks need to do better with their security arrangements for customers. So, as you go out there to your Christmas shopping, and some of you are just going to do Christmas watching, because you don't have the wherewithal to do the shopping, I am appealing to you, please be vigilant. I pray there will be no mourning during this holy season. Instead, only cheer and celebrations again I appeal to you to be guarded. We move on to the next pavement report, Thursday, Tunapuna, El Dorado Pantent on the Cora Road. I ask you to tune in and listen in. I want to thank you all, and always remember, may God's blessings be with you all in this holy season. And always remember, I love you. And I ask you to stay, let us all stay together. United we can. Together we can, united we stand. Together we can, united we stand. On the road to victory, we'll sweep them out of the Red House, out of Whitehall, and out of government entirely. Once we stay together, we can. Thank you, and God bless you all. Thank you.
And all of them still get. So who feel the black? Who feel the white? I don't know. But it's settled tomorrow night. Who feel the wrong? Who feel the right? Come and go. And all who feel the too bright, let me jump up, let me wind up, party non-stop. Ramaje dingo lekekete, we come to play mass. Every creed and class, don't let nothing pass. Like a ready TV, all the love inside away. Uptown and ghetto, feeling the tempo. Soca and Kaiso, it's party day like so. Soon as we land, fun is the plan. We like the jam like